This could change everything for the New York Rangers, as fans and media alike know that the Rangers have a huge hole in their lineup they need to fill this offseason, and multiple reports have come out stating that a superstar top six forward could be available, and the Rangers may be one of the teams interested in this player. We're going to break all that down, but before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you watching our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel, so if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. You can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers, and it's going to be a lot of fun heading into this next season. And today's video, of course, is going to be about Martin Necas, all right, of the Carolina Hurricanes. Very interesting player. He kind of wants out of Carolina. We know that he would like to play probably a bigger role on a different team, but it doesn't seem like he might be leaving Carolina too quickly. We'll get into it. So would be interesting to see the Rangers pursue Carolina forward Martin Necas via trade. And then from the article, of course, remember that Carolina's system is designed to kill offensive talent. They rely on point shots, deflections, rebounds. So individual talent like Necas and a couple other players on that team like Svechnikov are swallowed up in the simplification of the game. And obviously they're very defensive minded as well as a team. So the more offensive players don't really have free reign to do whatever they want on that team. And whoever has, explosive speed, relentless hands, high hockey IQ would make them a much better fit next to, obviously, the offensively minded Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider in the Blue Shirts' top line there next season, because they're still looking, the Rangers are, for a top line forward. And to go further, it's confirmed Martin Necas' future with the New York Rangers has been revealed, and it seems like, we'll get into it in a second, this is a great player, all right, from the Carolina Hurricanes, who wants probably a better opportunity on a different team, right? And this is from Rono and Andy. My thoughts on Martin Necas, there is no doubt that Necas has flaws in his defense. That is true. I wouldn't rely on him for the defensive side of the game, which could be a problem for the Rangers as well, because I think they need more defensively sound players and physical players. So that could be an issue, but he would definitely help with scoring on that top line. However, I believe he could be an elite offensive forward with good line mates. He's incredible with the puck, already elite at carrying, and one of the best skaters in the whole league. And I think that's another thing. He's a great puck carrier, right? He gains the zone, very underrated. The Rangers have a couple of them, right? I don't think the Rangers are, too strapped for a couple of those players. They have a couple of players that can do that, but I think this is just another example of a great player, offensive player, who has that skill set. And when you go further into this, many felt that the Rangers would be a team that would be heavily favored to try and trade for Necas as the team continues to look for reinforcements on their forward lines. As many say, anything is possible, and there's still plenty of summer left to see if anything can change between now and training camp. But for now, it seems like Necas will likely stay in Raleigh, North Carolina. And that, of course, is from TSN. And, let's get into the player himself now quickly, right? This is a great player. And obviously, you're probably looking at his points and games played, and you're like, wow, this is not even a point-a-game player. Why would I want this guy, right? But when you think about the system he plays in, the team he plays for, I don't think this guy has been able to be unleashed yet. I feel like he could be a really effective player and a top scorer on another team that is in Carolina because of the system that they play. I think if he had more free reign to be, a little bit more offensively creative, he plays in certain different situations, right? I think if he had, that ice time on a different team, that a top six role, he could really, you would see this player be unleashed next season. So it's pretty interesting. Seems like he may stay in Carolina. We'll get into some contract details and stuff like that in just a second, but this is a great player and would look fantastic on the Rangers top line because he's still obviously very young. He's only going to be 26 this coming season. And it is a lot easier to make trades before July 1st when teams have flexibility to go pivot and then sign other players to replace whatever they gave up than it is after July 1st when their roster is mostly built. And that is from GM Tulsky in Carolina. And I think, him saying that's very true, right? I think we're past a point of no return, I think, so far this offseason where, teams might be more reluctant to make trades because they're right up against the cap and they already made their moves and they're looking forward to the new season, right? So he continued, we are continuing to talk to teams and we don't want to miss an opportunity to make the team better, but teams have less flexibility now than they had in June, so it's harder to find a deal now than it was then. And I think the Rangers still have a pretty decent amount of flexibility, right? Like, I think Drury set them up for next season. Like, you don't want to go out and make a couple of stupid moves with your flexibility, right? They have some cap room right now. They still have to sign Lindgren, of course, but they have some space, right? So you don't want to go out and blow that, and then you're like, oh, what do we do with Shesterkin and Lafreniere? So they have to be careful about that, but I think it's a pretty interesting option. And to get into some more about Necas as well, and this is from Ryan Hall. Rumors and stories have been reported for the past several weeks that Necas will be leaving Carolina due to their contract dispute. The narrative began to change when former general manager Don Waddell had left the organization to join the Columbus Blue Jackets. So obviously there was some disconnect there. Again, that is from Ryan Hall. And newly appointed general manager Eric Tulsky in Carolina feels that a deal can be accomplished between now and the beginning of training camp. But as we all know, that is, it remains to be seen. So he could end up being traded. And we know when the season ended, this player and his representatives came out and said, he wants a better opportunity. It sounded like he wanted a better opportunity to play in a top 6 role somewhere else that isn't Carolina. That's what it sounded like. Now, relationships can always be fixed and mended, and he could end up staying in Carolina, but I think it's very interesting how this player fits exactly what the Rangers could need. So pretty interesting stuff here. And again, they feel like they can get this accomplished by training camp. So things are still out in the open until then. And when you look at what the Rangers might have to give up, it's going to be pretty ridiculous, right? Let's make no mistake about it. Like, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to want like multiple prospects or whatever it is, draft picks, right? High draft picks. It's going to be a big return, right? It's going to be something significant. And, this is an RFA right now too. They would be trading for his rights. They still have to sign him to a new contract if the Rangers were to acquire him. And his qualifying offer right now stands at $3.5 million, which is, very good for a player of that status, but I'm sure he's going to want more, maybe $5-6 million, something like that. I think he offers a lot to a team, not only like the Rangers, but multiple other teams around the league. So it could be very interesting. And here's another interesting article from Connor exploring a New York Rangers trade for Carolina Hurricanes forward Martin Necas. And for one, Carolina would need a top 6 piece back. The Rangers don't have any spares. Necas is good, but not worth losing Lafreniere, Kreider, or Panarin for his services. Absolutely not. If you're the Rangers and you're acquiring Necas, you can't give up any of your top 6 players. It just doesn't make sense, right? Because then you're filling a hole and you're making a new one. That doesn't make sense to me. There would need to be another team involved with the Rangers that they could acquire a top 6 forward and then go to Carolina for Necas. But at that point, the Blue Shirts might just be better off going to a different source for their new top 6 forward, and that might ultimately be the case here. And he goes on to say Necas's contract demands are also exceptionally high, somewhere in the $7 to $8 million range. So excuse me, I said 5 to 6. I have been, obviously I was wrong. It's $7 to $8 million, which is very significant. But again, like I said, this player in a top 6 role out of that system in Carolina, I think the sky's the limit. I think he's a very, very good player. And I think a lot of insiders agree with that sentiment. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him here. And Necas' contract demands would make this very problematic for the New York Rangers, given that he just scored, only 53 points last year. But I think he has a higher ceiling than that. So please make no mistake, this is a player with a skill set of an actual NHL star, trapped in a system that forces him to rein in his talents to fit the system better. I think that's the fact of the matter at this point, right? When you look at his stat line, we can get into it very quickly before we wrap up here. When you look at his stat line, I mean, this is still a very young player. I think his ceiling is much higher than what we've seen. He put up, he's less than a point a game player. I think he has potential to be over a point a game player on a better team. He has a very good skill set. He's I don't want to say elite, but he's very good at what he does. Puck handling, puck carrying, decent shot, right? Can score. So a lot to like from this player. I wonder if the New York Rangers, kick tires on it, because it sounds like things might be moving pretty slow in Carolina so far. But let me know in the comments what you think. Could this fix the problem or the right wing top line problem for the New York Rangers? And would you do a trade for Martin Necas? Could be very, very interesting. The Carolina Hurricanes might want some top 6 forwards back, or maybe some prospects to retool for the future. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.